it rich that The View is saying she got the job based on looks when DEI is all about based on looks?
For weeks, The View treated Karoline Leavitt's massive $800 million lawsuit like a punchline. They mocked it on air, shrugged it off like it was nothing more than political theater, and dismissed it as just another conservative cry for attention. But now, those same outspoken voices have suddenly gone quiet. Behind the scenes, sources say the hosts are privately urging Leavitt to drop the lawsuit before things spiral further out of control. So, how did things shift so fast? And what's really looming for ABC and the women of The View? At first, the atmosphere on set was smug, almost defiant. The hosts weren't just unfazed, they were openly laughing. Joy Behar, always quick with a jab, rolled her eyes and called it nothing more than another case of a conservative playing the victim.
For me, and sort of lived lives of dreams deferred and poured everything in me, and just my life, how I transitioned from college. I went to college when I was 16, high school when I was 12, the struggle of that, and my career as a federal prosecutor, and then how I found my way.
Classic Joy. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg, no stranger to controversy herself, brushed it all off like it was just another forgettable headline. Please, she scoffed on air. We've dealt with worse. This will be forgotten in a week. That line didn't age well. Then came Sunny Hostin, the show's go-to legal voice, speaking with total certainty. Looking straight into the camera, she declared, this lawsuit has no legs to stand on. According to her, it would be tossed out immediately, no doubt, no hesitation. And for a brief moment, it looked like they were right. Major outlets like CNN and MSNBC quickly backed them up, labeling the case as baseless, frivolous, even laughable. Legal analysts piled on, calling it nothing more than a conservative tactic to intimidate the media and muzzle free speech. Everything seemed to be swinging in The View's favor. But behind the scenes, a very different narrative was taking shape. Legal circles began buzzing with rumors. Whispers that the lawsuit wasn't just real, it might actually land. Karoline Leavitt's legal team came out swinging, hinting at explosive evidence, sealed testimonies, and defamation claims that could rock ABC's legal department to its core. That's when the mood shifted. The same hosts who had been laughing just weeks earlier suddenly grew cautious. The tone on the show became noticeably tenser, less sass, more strain. Even Whoopi, usually quick to shrug off any controversy, has gone unusually quiet. Now, the question everyone's asking, if this lawsuit gains serious traction, could it bring down daytime TV's most controversial table of talkers? Because $800 million isn't just a number, it's a warning shot. One loud enough to make even the boldest voices on television start measuring every word. And behind the bright lights and forced smiles, ABC's legal team? They're not laughing anymore.
They really don't like this woman. She's a good communicator. And so Joy Behar just offered her analysis on why Leavitt was picked for the role.
While The View's hosts kept joking on camera, ABC's legal department knew better. This wasn't some headline-chasing stunt. Karoline Leavitt's $800 million defamation lawsuit was a ticking time bomb, and internally, the panic was real. Lawyers weren't just concerned, they were rattled. Sources say they immediately recognized the case had substance, credible documents, real witnesses, and high stakes. If it ever reached trial, it could rip the lid off ABC's entire operation. As the hosts continued to toss sarcastic remarks like party favors, the mood behind closed doors was anything but festive. They're not laughing in the legal department, one insider revealed. There's real weight to this. According to leaks, the legal team scrambled, digging through emails, transcripts, and production notes, trying to gauge the damage. ABC eventually issued a dry, corporate statement, "We take all legal matters seriously and are committed to addressing them professionally." But behind that PR gloss, crisis mode was already underway. This wasn't just defamation. Leavitt's team alleged documented misconduct, calculated smear tactics, and coordinated character attacks. If it went to trial, it wouldn't just be a lawsuit, it would be a public dissection of how daytime TV really works. Inside ABC, executives were split. One camp wanted to fight, confident The View had done nothing wrong. The other urged a quiet settlement, terrified that discovery could expose damning internal emails, off-record remarks, and career-ending decisions. And the worst part? The hosts had no clue how serious things had become. They were still laughing, still dismissing it, while upstairs, executives scrambled to contain the fallout. This isn't just about one lawsuit, a senior ABC official confided. It's about what happens if the floodgates open. They still think it's a joke. But we've already started making moves, without them knowing. That's right, while the women of The View laughed on set, ABC's boardrooms were in full-blown crisis mode. Legal briefings, backdoor meetings, and risk assessments were happening daily. Executives were already crunching numbers, sketching out quiet settlement options to avoid a catastrophic public trial. But once word of this reached The View's dressing rooms, chaos erupted. The moment the hosts found out that ABC was seriously considering settling with Karoline Leavitt, the very woman they'd mocked for weeks, the vibe shifted hard. Smug turned to stunned. Whoopi Goldberg, the undeniable queen bee of the panel, snapped. She'd spent weeks brushing off the lawsuit like it was beneath her. And now? Her own network was entertaining the idea of paying Leavitt to go away. In a closed-door meeting that spiraled into a shouting match, Whoopi slammed her hand on the table. "Are you kidding me? We're actually taking her seriously now," she yelled. For Whoopi, this was no longer just about legal strategy. It was personal. She'd survived cancel culture, online backlash, controversial takes, and internal feuds. She was supposed to be untouchable, and suddenly, ABC was bending the knee. She felt blindsided, betrayed by the network she helped carry for decades. Joy Behar wasn't far behind. She stormed into the dressing room like a hurricane, tossed her makeup bag onto the vanity, and shouted, "We built this damn show. We made this network millions." Her voice rang down the hallway. This wasn't just anger, it was fury. Fury at the thought that ABC might cave. Fury that their loyalty meant nothing. And especially fury that Karoline Leavitt, someone she dismissed as irrelevant, now held the power to shake their empire. Joy wasn't going down quietly. "They're just going to toss us aside like we're replaceable," she barked. Over some stupid lawsuit? Even Sunny Hostin, the calm, measured legal mind of the show, was shaken. A former federal prosecutor, Sunny had reviewed the fine print. She'd seen the depositions, the emails, the raw clips. And she wasn't smiling. Not this time. Pulling a producer aside, she said flatly, "This isn't just noise. If this goes to trial, we're all getting dragged in." Sunny knew what the others were only beginning to understand. This wasn't just a legal threat. It was a PR disaster waiting to detonate. Everything was in play, past comments, off-air remarks, editing decisions, even backstage footage. All of it could be subpoenaed. She understood just how ugly it could get. The hosts were unraveling, each in their own way. Tempers flared. Trust eroded. The once impenetrable team was cracking under pressure none of them saw coming. And worst of all? ABC still hadn't made a decision. The network was hedging its bets, stalling for time, weighing just how much truth the public could stomach if it all exploded. Everything they'd ever said about Karoline, on air, off camera, in meetings, in texts, was now a liability. And Sunny? She was the first to truly see the scale of the threat. This wasn't just about legal exposure anymore. It was about legacy, reputation, public image. One wrong move, one leaked clip, and everything they'd built could collapse, live, in front of millions. The fear was settling in fast. And then, it happened. The moment no one expected. Panic finally took hold. The View did the unthinkable. They flipped the script, live, on air, right in front of their audience. Gone was the cocky swagger. Gone were the jokes, the eye rolls, the casual dismissal of Karoline Leavitt's lawsuit. What viewers witnessed instead was something entirely different, a public plea, thinly veiled as conversation. But anyone paying attention could feel the shift. This wasn't commentary, it was desperation dressed up for daytime TV. Whoopi Goldberg, usually the boldest voice at the table, opened the segment with a heavy sigh and a hesitant shake of her head. Her trademark sharp tone was replaced by something unfamiliar, restraint. "Look," she began slowly, "I think we all need to take a step back here. There's been a lot of unnecessary hostility, and frankly, this isn't good for anyone." No snark. No smirk. It was Whoopi trying to mop up weeks of mockery without actually admitting guilt. A cleanup job without getting her hands too dirty. But for many, it was already too late. Then came Joy Behar. Just weeks earlier, she had mocked the lawsuit as a clown act, rolling her eyes on national television. But now? Her tone had flipped. She nervously fidgeted with her cue cards and said, "I don't know why this has to go so far. Can't we just sit down like adults and talk this out?" It hit like a slap to longtime viewers who remembered her gleefully roasting Karoline Leavitt. In less than a month, Joy had gone from "this is laughable" to "please let's talk." The pivot was impossible to ignore. But it was Sunny Hostin who looked the most visibly shaken. The show's legal authority, who had once declared with confidence that the lawsuit had no legs, was now leaning forward, voice low and deliberate. "Karoline, if you're watching," she said carefully, "I believe there's a way to resolve this without going through the courts. Maybe it's time we all come together and find common ground." Behind the cameras, producers reportedly held their breath. This wasn't just damage control, it was a white flag. One by one, the hosts tried to rewrite the story they had been telling for weeks. But the audience wasn't buying it. Not fully. It was one of the most visible public backpedals in recent television history, mockery turned mercy, live on national TV. And let's be clear, this wasn't about healing. It was about survival. ABC's legal team had already made it clear, if Karoline pushed forward, it was going to get ugly. Every flippant remark, every internal memo, every shady production call, dragged into the spotlight. The network's polished image could collapse in front of the entire nation. This wasn't compassion, it was control. A last-ditch attempt to stop the bleeding. And the internet? It saw right through it. The moment the segment aired, social media detonated. Viewers who'd watched weeks of smug denial now saw the same faces trying to slam the brakes, and the backlash was instant. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Screenshots of Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny's awkward tonal shift spread like wildfire across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. No one was fooled. One viral comment on The View's Instagram post summed up the mood. If you weren't guilty, you wouldn't be begging. Others called it pathetic, scripted, and the most embarrassing act of damage control daytime television had ever seen. And then came the memes. Within hours, the internet was flooded with brutal edits, side-by-side clips of the hosts' arrogant jabs contrasted with their suddenly soft pleas. The reversal wasn't just obvious. It was meme-worthy. And the worst part? The bleeding hadn't even started yet. One viral meme said it all, a split screen of Whoopi Goldberg, on the left, laughing and rolling her eyes, on the right, visibly stressed, delivering her on-air plea. Another showed Joy Behar's panicked expression with the biting caption. Built the show. Built the problem. Conservative media wasted no time. Fox News aired back-to-back segments dissecting The View's collapsing tough girl act. The Daily Wire dropped a scathing article accusing the hosts of rank hypocrisy, calling their sudden come-by moment nothing more than a calculated move to dodge accountability. And independent creators? Ruthless. YouTube and TikTok lit up with takedowns. Channels racked up millions of views with titles like Whoopi Cracks Under Pressure and Joy Behar's Backpedal of the Century. Frame by frame, they dissected the implosion, slowing down clips, highlighting the forced tone shifts, the awkward body language, the nervous glances. What was supposed to be an olive branch quickly became a PR disaster. Instead of earning sympathy, the hosts gave their critics exactly what they'd been waiting for, proof that The View was cracking under the weight of its own arrogance. Commentary channels across YouTube didn't hold back. One after another tore apart the segment, calling it exactly what it was, damage control. The sighs, the softened voices, the carefully chosen words, they didn't scream remorse. They screamed panic. And viewers saw it. By the time the segment aired, it was too late. The internet had already made up its mind. The tide had turned, and Karoline Leavitt wasn't backing down. Inside ABC, the alarm bells were deafening. Ratings were slipping. Sponsors were pulling back. Whispers from the advertising world hinted that some were already preparing to cut ties altogether. ABC had entered full-blown meltdown mode. Behind the scenes, executive meetings ran late into the night. Crisis teams were deployed. Lawyers combed through footage frame by frame. And while the host still smiled for the cameras, the truth behind the curtain was grim. Because if this lawsuit goes to trial, it won't just be about defamation. It could blow open everything, private emails, confidential notes, off-air commentary. And if that all sees daylight? It won't just burn The View. It could torch the network's credibility, maybe even permanently. And Karoline? She's not blinking. Every time the hosts tried to soften their stance, spin the narrative, or shift the blame, it only made them look more guilty, more desperate, more exposed. The power dynamic has flipped. The View's once untouchable hosts are now on the defensive, scrambling to salvage their reputations. But if you think this is the end? Think again. This is just the beginning. The biggest scandal in The View's history is still unfolding, and what happens next could change daytime TV forever. Accountability, lawsuits, public trust, all of it is on the table. So what do you think? Is Karoline Leavitt really about to take down one of the most iconic shows in daytime television history? Or will ABC pull off the ultimate save? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we want to hear everything. And if you're as hooked as we are, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because trust us? This storm's just getting started.